Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Griot Shaman, and welcome aboard wherever you are. Don't believe what we say. This show is strictly for entertainment's sake. Really, we're not here to prove anything or anything of that nature. Though I have to thank you, the audience that has gone to PayPal and put in, when they say, who do you want to send money to, and you put in the dude awake 42 at Gmail. A number of you have been gifting me, and I really, really appreciate it. I would not be able to have gotten home from my journey without it. And I'm still, living on $400 to, give or take. A month out in the middle of the deep green. And so, why am I doing that? Well, because I kind of have to, because I died in 2014 and came back to life and was not able to continue my hedonist lifestyle of working for the corporate desperate lawyers. And we are experiencing something that we've experienced. This ain't new.
Just let you know that the COVID stimulus bill went from $2,000 checks to $1,400, one-time check. No one else in the Western world is doing it like that. Everyone else is getting checks with all the time. We went from $600 unemployment down to $300 unemployment, and there's no $15 minimum wage, even though it was promised by Joe Biden, every goddamn Democrat running, Kamala Harris, everybody's for the minimum wage. They still ain't going to give it to you. So there's no living wage. There's no health care. I mean, they did give you COBRA. They're going to spend $52 billion to give 1.6 million people COBRA.
A lot of insurance companies going to make some money. Yep, instead of single payer.
So stimulus checks now have eligibility limits that are means tested. The Democrats have backtracked on every one of their promises, and the squad and the Progressive Caucus did not fight even one little bit or even have any strategy to get you anything. Now let's listen to Rachel. So this is a big failure, and this is their government abandoning you like no other Western government is. The most right-wing governments in Europe are not screwing you as hard as the United States government is screwing its own people in this country. The farthest right-wing government in Europe is not screwing their workers like Americans are. Okay, so here's Rachel Maddow doing straight up. Now, when in that book, Manufacturing Consent, that their primary objective, Noam Chomsky tells us, their primary objective is to what? Is to manufacture consent for the establishment. And here we go.
They're going to start the home stretch final debate to pass the American Rescue Plan, the big COVID relief bill. That is the first thing the Biden administration and the Democrats in Congress put their shoulders to when they got sworn in just 2 months ago. But just at face value, it is more wide-reaching progressive legislation than anything passed in a generation. I mean, anything.
That's very much like being the skinniest kid at fat camp. Because just so you know, because we haven't passed any progressive legislation in my lifetime. How about that? There hasn't been any sweeping progressive legislation in my lifetime.
Well, can I say something about what she just said?
Yeah.
And maybe this is fishing a little bit, but I still think it's a point to be made. She started saying generation. And then if you notice, she stopped herself. She said sweeping progressive legislation in a generation, and she stopped herself before she said generation. And I think that one thing that is true about the corporate media is they really do not want to remind people that from Gen X to present day, every human being alive has known nothing but Reaganism politically in their entire lifetimes. They really do not want to say that out loud too often, because if they do, a lot of people might start looking around and going, I think this system might not work. Not even a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's a failure. So, and I'm not saying that's why she stopped herself before she said generation. I can't really make that call, but it was interesting to me. And I couldn't help but have that thought that she stopped herself before she said generation. We don't want to remind them of that.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly, we haven't had sweeping progressive. We've had nothing but Ronald Reaganism, conservatism, and even Barack Obama admitted that if you look at the lens of what he was doing, his policies would be considered moderate Republican in the 80s. That's what he said. Okay.
Anything passed by at least the last two Democratic presidents. I mean, legislatively, in terms of its progressive reach, in terms of its reach to make things better for people who need the most help, it is definitely on par with the Affordable Care Act, with Obamacare.
Hey, the Relief Act they just passed, it's on par with that thing that denied 30 million people health care and let everybody else go bankrupt when they got sick, while stuffing the pockets of the oligarchs. You mean it's that good? Isn't that amazing? And by the way, we got that Obamacare when there wasn't even a pandemic. And that's like, what a high bar. What a high bar, huh?
Yeah, her point of comparison right away is just complete and utter bullshit. She's like, it's better than the past two Democratic presidencies. Really? How did Bill Clinton handle the pandemic during his presidency? How did Barack Obama handle the pandemic during? Oh, wait, there were pandemics, so there's no comparison to be made there. And it's just.
And because Barack Obama didn't pass a progressive healthcare policy. That's a right-wing healthcare policy. That's why in a generation we haven't had a progressive president. We haven't had progressive legislation. We haven't had lefty legislation. We've had moderate right-wing legislation when we get a Democratic president, and we get crazy batshit right-wing stuff when we get a Republican. That's what's been going on, and she can't say that because that's the truth. But Rachel Maddow is here. She gets $30,000 a day, $30,000 a day to manufacture consent. And what she's doing is gaslighting you right now. She's trying to make you think that this is a good thing.
To cut child poverty in half.
It's expected to cut child poverty in half, Ron. Did you hear that? It's expected to cut child poverty in half. Why don't we cut child poverty in whole? Why are we doing it? Why don't we have whatever the fuck we're doing for the half? Why don't we do it for the total? Why are we leaving half the children in poverty in the richest country in the world, and you guys have complete control of government? Why don't you?
Yep. Why don't we? Good question. All good questions. What do you think, guys? Got anything to say? Well, here it is. March, eyes of March of 2021. And 6 days into 2021, what happened? Oops. Was that Mary Hartman we saw at the Capitol? Was it a soap opera? What were we looking at? And welcome, folks. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Al Bob. I'm here to tell you a story, and I'm here to help you open up your own mind. You know, I'm not going to tell you think. No, I'm just going to give you little tidbits, crumbs, for you to be able to, put the dots together. So right now, in over 20 states, they are passing laws that make, Ray, Sunray. I heard by a man named Robert Dean that Jesus' birthday was actually on March 1st. Yep. Or in the spring. Yep. And the only reason we Holy Roman Emperor did it because that's a Bacchanalian holiday for the pagan. Now, there's nothing wrong with the pagans. It's just like somebody else's religion, just like being a Methodist. And back in the day when I lived in Newark, and I lived right on the demarking line between the black neighborhood and the Portuguese neighborhood, I lived right next to, in the alleyway of an old Masonic lodge that had become a Pentecostal black church. And in it, there were, I don't know why, but the Masons had 3 Harman B210 organs, best electric organ, just sounds like a pipe organ like you can't believe. And they had Leslie's. That's the speakers that revolve, so it gives it that really interesting sound. And the ladies were fooling around, and they couldn't really make any of them work. So I had to Fillmore. I worked on Leslie's a good deal, and Harmons, B210s. And so I did that. So I got to know this church very well. It was run by women. Hey, Janie Pooh. And it was the best church I ever was part of. Great food, great times, great parties. The Spirit of Jesus was in every nuance of everything these folks did. They shared. They had hospitality. It almost sounds like Islamic folk, don't you think? And so we are being pressured to go along with whatever this restart is, right? And where are you going to fit in that? And I would suggest that in your neighborhoods, you need to find your cadre, your buddies, and start an open air, farmers market, and have it open all the time, and have it a place where people can come and get something to eat, and people can come and talk, and there's coffee and hot chocolate, and everyone can sell their wares, whatever they got, And that's what this church did. They had a big alley that I lived in, and a big backyard that was great, and had open pits to cook in, and they had the whole thing was set back from the curb. So there was a big steps with a big stage up there. And it was a street that not many people were on. It wasn't a main avenue. Nothing went through there. And we could easily, adjust, put the garbage cans at either end and have a street party. And we had connected with the police very solidly. And we used our church to teach the Newark police how to community police. And we didn't demand anything. We just said, hey, we're going to have a party. Why don't you guys come to it? And they did. And the food was great, and the people were great. And and Newark's police department at that time was, it was right after the Newark riots. And so it was maybe a third, maybe a fifth black. And they had one black captain who was actually in our district. And so he was all for us. And he knew the grandmas, and everything worked. It was a redlined area, and everyone was selling their stuff. And the people who did the best actually started little stores. And we started using the Homestead Act of 1876 to take back property that the state owned in that neighborhood. And they were down for it because nothing was coming out. It was costing them money. We had dropped the crime rate by 90%. We started paying taxes. We started our own school, and it was quite an amazing adventure. And that's when I taught at Newark College of Engineering in their theater department. I kind of ran that. They built it, the state built it, spent $22 million on building an amazing theater department, but it was an engineering school. Nobody wanted to go there. So anyway, that was the story of Newark, and how everyone just kind of got together. And it's not that I led anyone. It's just that when I showed up, I lubricated the fun bone, right? And we all had a good time. And we all shared, just like the folks who have been very, very kind and generous to share with me by going to PayPal. And when PayPal goes, who do you want to give some money to? You put in the dude awake 42 at Gmail, and that has helped me a great deal. I was out on the bounce. I was traveling around. I was heading towards Charlotte, then towards Florida, then towards Florida, and then New Orleans, and I expected the Republicans to the government, get our little checks, but it didn't happen. So it's probably happening soon, right? Who knows? But every other industrial nation in the world has given its people $2,000 or something every month because the rent comes due every month. We have 40 million people who are homeless in America. 40 million. And it's been going up because, yes, there's you can't throw people out, moratorium on rent. There's a paper trail like you can't believe. If you get anything wrong, you get thrown out. So,
you do something that...
Whoops.
Something that gets rid of all of it.
Yeah, the fact that we have child poverty in the first place is criminal beyond comprehension.
And their big idea when they get complete control of government is to get rid of just half of it. How much child poverty are you comfortable with? Half? Let's get rid of half of it. We'll keep half.
In this country through direct aid to families and through big sustained tax credits for families with kids. Just the school funding alone is a really big deal.
This is amazing. This is like watching a commercial for a drug, and they hired a celebrity spokesperson. It's like she's trying to sell me Ambien right now. I'm going to tell you, this stuff is great. And you should also get an espresso. Those are fantastic too. And it's like she's selling shit. That's exactly what she's doing. She's acting. She's garbage. She's a garbage human being. She's acting, and she's hiding behind her identity to sell you corporate clapjack bullshit so you don't revolt against the people giving her $30,000 a day. That's what she's doing right now with fake eyelashes on.
With fake eyelashes, I wear fake eyelashes for 30 grand a day. Nothing is what you think it is. Everything is illusion. I'm living in the middle of a forest because it cuts down on buying things, cuts down on exposure to media, like that person that Jimmy was describing, Western Maddows, who makes, she is a living embodiment of the book Manufacturing Consent, right? And so here we are. And, Black Lives Matter last summer had a great frigging movement. People were upset. They, if you were black, you'd be upset too, or, look at the poor kids who are transgendered. They are, more than 20 something states have gone after transgendered kids, and, all the laws that have been written are all about boys transing into women, girls, right? There is nothing there about girls transing to boys, right? There's nothing there. Now, trans is not something new. And there were, during the 1936 Olympics, the German had, in their women's Olympics, a great deal of, guys who became women. And they had been big athletic athletes as guys, right? But not, gold medalists. And so they had them trans into women. gave him some hormones. And what was interesting is that those guys who were already professional athletes, already bodybuilders, then trans into women, did not win a lot of medals. So the whole issue of trans is illusion. When they're saying, "Oh, we want to protect girls from boys coming in and taking over girls' athletics," I don't think so. When I was a young lad and I played lacrosse, right, and we came from a very, very small school. I mean, we would go up against football teams and lacrosse teams and hockey. We played all these sports, and we had 160 kids in our school. And because our headmaster wanted his name up there against, schools like Deerfield and all the other Choate and all those other schools. And we used to play them. And so our coach, and the two things that we used to win at was swimming and lacrosse, right? And both reasons was because the coaches of those two teams were great. And my swimming coach was his name was Futtrick. He was a Jewish guy. He won the gold medal in the 36 Olympics in Berlin, and he was a high platform, one of those guys. And he was 90 when he was our coach, and he could still swim better than any of us. He could go under. This was Olympic swimming pool. You just had to walk 10 miles down into town to use the town facilities, because during the day nobody did, and our school paid the money. And the families were all up for it because they were having the girls wait for us, so we'd knock them up and they'd be marrying rich guys. Anyway, so or at least getting a check bigger than the pandemic check than the American people are getting right now. And so our two coaches, so like in lacrosse, right? So he said, what we need to do is we need to be able to talk smack. And this guy was as white. He looked like Richie Cunningham, red hair, freckles, but he grew up in a foster black family. So this guy was as black as you could be. But he was really smart. He went to schools and got a good education. And then he went to Brown, which is a pretty good school, and got a good education. And he and all of the guys who were our teachers, who were under 30, were guys who didn't want to get drafted. And being a white male teacher in a prep school was you didn't get drafted. And so this lacrosse, he was also our wrestling coach. And so the first year, and our coach Futtrick, he treated, if you made 1 second better than your time at any other time, he would make you feel like you won the Olympics, not whether you won your meet or whatever. And that was one of the nice things I liked about swimming, is that even though it was a team sport, everyone did their best, right? And whether you got first, second, or third, or even came in fourth or fifth, if you did your best, our coach made you feel great, right? And he didn't care about whether we won. But with that kind of attitude and that kind of example and motivation, we did, by the end of our season, we were doing pretty good. And the next season, we did really good. And then he got sick, and he was replaced by a Marine sergeant, drill sergeant type of guy who couldn't swim, which was like, what? He's in the Marines, he can't swim? I can't believe this. And he was all about winning, not us doing better or us being a great team. No, it's about winning. If you don't win, you're a loser. That was his basic thing. And I was a long distance swimmer. That's how I learned to meditate. I would just go and do these things called, pyramids. 1 fast, 1 slow. 2 fast, 2 slow. 3 fast, 3 slow. 4 fast, 4 slow. And I would do it all the way up to 30 and then down again. So that's like, 160, 200 laps of a, and I'd just be over in one, the most furthest lane, and just, there were us long distance guys. We just swim and swim and swim and swim and swim, right? Practicing our turns and breathing and swim, right? Just swim. And so when this guy, he shuffled everyone around, and he was like, strategy. So you're going to do the IM. That means 4 butterfly, 4 breast, 4 back, and 4 freestyle. And I said, this ain't my thing. He said, well, you'll get, I need somebody in here, right? And because I'm using the other 2 guys to, do, because they were good at one of those strokes, right? So, okay. So I just, bang, jump in, swim, swim. I knew how to do the stroke, swim. And I'm coming in on my last lap of the freestyle, right? All I have to do is touch, right? And I'm done. And I look, and everybody else is like doing the butterfly, and I'm about to win. So I swim, and I get to about a foot to the touching the wall. And I'm just, and it's a deep end. So I'm just kind of, do. And the other guys are catching up, and the coach, touch the wall. And, they're catching up. And then the one guy is like, comes in, boom, hits it. Well, you should have won. You should have been first. Touch the wall. You get second place. Guy comes, touches it, bang. Third guy, and he's my buddy. I don't touch it. I want him. He's never won anything. He's going to win third. So I, and he's in the lane next to me. So I don't touch the wall. And that guy touches it, and I say, touch the rope, and I go, hey, you did a great job. And he smiled. He's also, I said, you won the Olympics. Coach Butcher could be proud. And the guy is screaming at me, and I can feel his spit. He's so livid, and his little whistle is like knocking me in the head. So I look up, and I grab the whistle, and I pull him into the water, and we're in the deep end. It's like 15 feet, right? And I basically step on his head and push him all the way down. He's a big fat guy, so he sinks to the bottom, and bubbles are coming up, and he's screaming, and I just swim away. No one in our whole team jumps in to save him. It isn't until the other team realizes that none of us are going to save him, so they don't want this guy to die in their swimming pool. So and he's already shit himself, so the brown stuff is already coming up. And, I'm already in the shower taking him, right? And his second in command is like screaming at me, as soon as I get out of the pool. Did he jump in to save the guy? No. So, you're going to be arrested, and murder, blah, 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 no. And so they get the guy out, ring him out, and he's, he's okay. He's not even close to, anything. He's got a turd in his mouth. That's the worst thing that happened to him. And it's his own turd. So, hey, So I get kicked off the team, which is fine by me. And this wrestling coach comes and says, Al, I heard what you did in the pool. That's great. That's like, and so I got an offer for you. You got to have a sport. Instead of hockey, why don't you do wrestling? I said, yeah, we get weight. My roommate last year was a wrestler. He had to lose weight, gain weight. It was terrible. He goes, no. You don't have to do any of that. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I want you to wrestle this class, which is usually all the captains of the team are this guy, state champions, right? And did you ever see a machiazzi? And I said, what's that? And he goes, it's a Mexican midget wrestler. And they wear these suit outfits. And I got one for you. And all I had to do is, your only exercise is to watch the Three Stooges, right? And we'll go to the thing, and you will wrestle whoever their captain is, you're going to wrestle him. And, you don't let him touch you. You stay away from him. You run around him, you go, whoa, 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 and you embarrass him to the point where you embarrass the whole team. You destroy whatever teamness they have. And then the guys who we have who can maybe win will probably win. And they do. And once I start being a mariachi superhero midget wrestler, and I'd start out on my knees, so I'd look like I was a midget. And then my only real thing was I could bounce up to my feet from my knees. And I'd fight dirty and, hit different parts of the body that would cause extreme pain. And if I got disqualified, who cares? It was all about disheartening the crew. And that is what our political structure has been doing for the last, since World War II. Well, really since the Civil War. And what are you going to do about it? And there's not much, look what happened to Black Lives Matter. Now, they have done good organizing in getting people to vote. And now what's the response? Over 40 states have passed, no one ever votes as somebody else, where the cheating of voting is in the big numbers, pretty much every president, Jack Kennedy shouldn't have won, Nixon should have, right? I mean, Harry Truman actually held up a newspaper saying Dewey won, meaning we've never had free, safe elections, right? As our good friend George Carlin would say, that's all a club. We don't belong to it, right? So what you can do is in your own community, your own town, your own neighborhood, your own village, your own county, you can organize. Like around, the Deep Green, there's a number of folks who came here to get away from things, and then the corporations came here and destroyed it. And so they said no. And they kept up the truck farms. They have 4 truck farm, farmers markets, and people sell their stuff there too, not just food there. And there's people serve food there, warm, good, yummy stuff, and coffee and donuts and pastries and meals and vegetables. And it is the only essence, and a good portion of those folks are Hispanic and Black, even though the 3 counties are as white as you could get. But the white folk here have been treated worse than any racial group or religious group in America because they're poor. And the powers that shouldn't be are doing their best to eradicate them, So anyway, that is what's on our, this year is going to. So I would say, before sometime between now and July 4th, the whole internet is going bye-bye, right? Because it's already a mess, right? And, they've said, somebody went into this one company, and this one company runs everyone's servers, and 24/7 they're sending upgrades, and they have basically hacked all the government computers, all the banking computers, all the market computers, all of the big business computers, all of the oil companies and chemical companies computers, all of the utilities, all 200 commercial nuclear power plants, and Bill Microsoft wants to, he's now going on into wanting to build more nuclear power. So it's all good as long as you can step up in every day and every way and take the piece of the earth and make it stronger, right? So go to my xratted.blogspot.com. Go read my my short stories, my essays, my novels. And what's going to happen is Mr. Elon Musk and Mr. Amazon and Mr. Microsoft and Mr. Facebook and Mr. Twitter and all of that guard is going to become a singular corporate oligarchy, megacorp, right? And when the internet's going down, Mr. Musk will say, hey, I got 50,000 satellites in orbit, and I'm ready to give you the smartest, amazing Apple phone for free. You just have to sign up, right, to be part of Megacorp. And being part of Megacorp, you thought Sam's was good. Oh, man, this is going to be bad. Be delivered by gyrocopter to your front door. You're like, within 3 hours, the box will arrive. And that's the new startup, the new rebranding, right? And the only way you can fight it is not by marching in the street or, no, sorry. Or even doing what those Puddinheads did on the 6th. Now, I can identify what they did. They got played so amazingly. I mean, right now, there are over 40 states that have laws on the books that make it a felony to exercise your First Amendment rights. And there are already books on the thing that makes it a felony for you as a young child to even question your sexual orientation. Your mommy, you, your teacher, your doctor will all go to jail. We've already made it illegal for a number of religions to exist in this country. And, the only way you can do to really interact with this is just to have, why am I living in the woods? Because I'm working, so last year I started my gardening after having a 10-year hiatus of hedonism. And, it was okay. I got a lot of squash before the animals figured out that I was growing vegetables for them. And so this year I went even better. I built a nice fence around everything. I'm building a greenhouse around everything so I can control the environment completely and get the best yield out of it, right? If I'm going to put my energy into it, might as well do it. And so it's all going to be very interesting to see what goes down with the next, this year. Like I said, 2021 is going to make 2020 look like Mary Poppins, right? And the only way you can, have a better life is that you make a better community. Not expect your government to take care of you. Not going to happen. So I enjoyed our 38 minutes. And Sandra, hello. So I will stay on for more time. If so, Mr. Ray gave us a thing saying, Jesus was born March 1st. He was definitely born in the spring. It lines up with astrological things that had occurred, right? And, Jesus was not a Capricorn, right? So, he's a Taurus or a sweetie. He's a sweetie. Might have been, no, he's not an Aquarian, no. But could have been a Scorpio. Because when Scorpios are sweet, they're very sweet. And if you were God, you could stand up for being an insect, So, did he eat organic food? Who? Jesus? Well, I would say probably, because everything was kind of grown organically before, Monsanto, so I would say yes, pretty much everything was organic. and they didn't have oil spills, and they didn't have air pollution of that nature. We're going to have electric cars within 5 years, and you won't own them. They will all be Uber. And if you're not a good girl or boy, when you hit that little app on the Elon Musk phone, Apple, it won't show up. And if you're really a bad person, they'll take your bicycle away. And if you're really not going along with the plan, they'll take your shoes away. So, it's all good. It's almost 3:26. I have some more errands to do. I'm really glad that 8 of you showed up, meaning there's probably a lot more who showed up, and I appreciate it. That's giving me 3 thumbs up. Really appreciate that. I'm back in the lodge, back in the deep green. I was away for a little more than a week, and all my medical things went well. I'm still, as my endocrinologist says, the healthiest dead guy he knows. And if any of you could send something along my PayPal account to the dudeawake42@gmail, I really love it, because I haven't seen anything. I used up a lot of my money in the traveling, whatever I had saved. And so I'm down to my last few quarters. The electric bill's coming up, a few other bills. So I'd really appreciate any generosity, donation. And that's all it is. It's a donation. It makes you feel good to make sure that I have electricity and running water and a few things to eat. I mean, I can always eat stuff growing in the woods, but right about now is the hardest. I mean, there's stuff I can eat. Dandelion greens still are everywhere. I can still eat those. And there are different barks that I can make teas out of that are really good for me. And they're somewhat filling. They kind of take away the need of eating because you get this taste in your mouth. And it's like, and it's somewhere between licorice and golden seal. But none of the berries have come in. None of the mushrooms have come in. Anyway, so when it hits 44, I'm gonna say I'm gonna tell you now I love you, and I think the next story I'm gonna talk is about my running into Nazis. I look great, don't I? Yes. Yes. And anybody who wants to talk on the phone and you live in America, go on the dudeawake42@gmail and leave me a little message. And personally, you can do that. And also, you can leave me your phone number if you want. A number of people have done that. I call them up and shoot the breeze with them. I always love it. So, what can I say? Yeah, I'm not doing bad for these, And like I said, as my endocrinologist says, I'm the healthiest dead guy he knows. And I need to buy myself a new pair of orthopedic shoes. Mine are kind of falling apart. And if I don't kind of have the shoe that kind of fits, I start to get what are known as diabetic sores. So now I'm, we're getting in the rainy season, and my orthopedic shoes kind of leak. So I kind of put plastic bags. That was the simple fix, because the things that cause the sores are when my feet get wet and stay wet. But putting a plastic bag over the sock, in between the shoe and the sock, a pretty good job. Except when it breaks and then your foot gets wet and then more water gets held to it. So anyway, these are all reasons why I just need a little help. And that's go to PayPal and go when they ask for a Gmail account you want to send it to. It's the dudeawake42@gmail. The dudeawake42@gmail. And my writings, if you want to go check them out, Griot Publishing is at xratted.blogspot.com. And we're coming up to 44, and I'm going to say I love you guys. And remember, go see what what kind of fun you can stir up in your neighborhood. See if you can make a farmer's market. Find a space that you can do, make it a people's park. See if you can start a school. See all of these things, and in neighborhoods where there aren't any real services. Okay. So anyway, that's it. Love you guys, and remember the good prayer. There's so many of them, but my favorite, which is short and sweet, is bless me indeed. Enlarge my territory. Put your hands upon my shoulders to keep me from evil, so I will do no harm, that I may in every day and every way take your piece of the earth and make it stronger through love's co-creation of all our relations, one love. I love you. Catch you guys later.